Hey there, fellow SuiteScript developers. Eric from Stoic Software here again today, and in this video we are going to take a quick look at NetSuite's user event script. The user event script lets us write code that gets triggered on any database read or write action done on a single record. Before we get into that, I can create custom personalized SuiteScript training for you or your NetSuite team. Just check out the description for a link to my website where you can get all the details on how to contact me directly. With that, let's get started. Now, as we've just said, the user event script is triggered by database events on single records. Specifically, the events that get fired are before load, before submit, and after submit. We'll take a look at each of these events in a little more detail. First, the before load event is triggered by any read operation on a record. Anytime a user, a script, an import, or a web service attempts to read a record out of the database, the before load event gets fired. So let's consider an example where a user is logged into the browser and they view a single record. The user clicks the View button in the UI, which sends a request to load the chosen record from the browser to the NetSuite server. The server retrieves the record's data from the database, then it executes our before load event with the record's data before it returns the record back to the client. This same sequence of events occurs no matter who or what is making this read request, whether it's a user logged into the UI, a web service, or even another SuiteScript. Now, just as before load is fired on any read operation on a record, our other two events, before and after submit, are fired on any write operation. Anytime a record is submitted to the database, these two submit events will be executed. So again, let's look at an example where the user has just edited an existing record and they click that Save button. So the user clicks the Save button in the UI, which sends a request to submit the record from the browser to the NetSuite server. Before NetSuite even submits the data to the database, NetSuite fires the before submit event. This gives us an opportunity to validate any changes or make any last-minute updates to the record before it goes into the database. Once the before submit event completes, the record gets committed to the database. After the commit is complete, NetSuite fires our after submit event before it returns control back to the client. Just as with before load, this exact same sequence of events occurs no matter who or what is submitting the record. And as you can see here, the before and after submit events essentially surround any database write request. So we've seen that user events kind of run in sequence with our database read and write operations. Because of this synchronous relationship, it's really important to carefully consider and monitor the performance of your user events. Deploying a single slow user event or many separate user events to the same record can really degrade the performance of that record type. So the more user events you have running and the longer each one takes to run on the same event, the longer that database operation is going to take. NetSuite recommends keeping the execution time of any single user event script under 5 seconds. You can monitor the performance of your user events and other SuiteScripts using the bundle called Application Performance Management, which you can see the help documentation for here. In addition to performance considerations, there is one very important limitation you must be aware of with user events, and that is the fact that user events do not chain together. So for example, if you load another record from your before load event, that other records before load event will not fire. NetSuite does this to prevent infinite looping of user events, but it makes it very difficult to sequence related records logic together. If your application design does rely on user events for different records firing in sequence, there are workarounds for this, but they are a little beyond the scope of this video. The last point I want to cover in our overview of user events here is just a few configuration settings that affect the behavior of user events. So far, we've stated that user events will run no matter where the database request is coming from, but there are some preferences that actually control that behavior. In order for user events to execute from web services requests, you must enable a specific setting in the web services preferences. You can find that under Setup, Integration, Web Services Preferences. There is a setting called Run SuiteScript and Trigger Workflows. If this is not set to Server, then user events will not execute during web services requests. As of NetSuite's release 2016.2, this setting can also be overridden by individual web services request. So each request has the ability to determine what level of scripting should be executed or not executed. A similar setting exists for CSV imports, and that is located at Setup, Import Export, CSV Import Preferences. There's a preference called Run Server SuiteScript and Trigger Workflows. If that is not enabled here, user events will not run during CSV imports. Just like with web services, as of 2016.2, this setting can also be overridden by individual CSV imports. That is it for our lesson on user event scripts. If you liked what you saw in this video, hit that thumbs up button, go share what you learned with someone else. I've got plenty of other videos for you to check out on this channel, and I keep recording them regularly. Hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my latest content. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep sharing, and I will see you next time.